episode 27. Episode 27, Boomer Guitar Sessions. This is Rod. What we're talking about today is rock guitar players. How could they benefit from learning some jazz? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so we're going to talk about, like, a lot of time, there's a lot of mindset stuff today too, because there's a lot of psyching yourself out kind of stuff when you do some of the jazz stuff, because it's like, it can be real intimidating if you approach it what I would consider to be the wrong way, which I am certainly guilty of myself. So with that said, what we're going to talk first, we're going to start with mindset. We're going to place a few ground rules, put a few ground rules into effect. Some of the minuses, I think, of being an elitist in any style of music. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people are guilty of, whether they're jazz players or they're metal guys or they're hip hop people. They think that their music is the greatest and everything else stinks. So when we study jazz as rock guitar players, we're not studying it because rock and roll is lacking. We're studying it because it's an infinite source of creativity, ideas, and melodic ideas and harmonic ideas and groove ideas and all kinds of stuff. There's no end to what you could study and apply to any style of music. It's not just something that is stuck in jazz, if you approach it correctly, what I would consider to be correctly. So best advice is, don't be that guy who, like, don't think that you have to hate every other style of music just because you're studying jazz, because that's just that's kind of immature. It's kind of goofy. Don't be goofy. Anyway, okay, second thing is learn at your own pace. You should have fun doing this. Learn at your own pace. I remember probably at Berkeley, I learned the Mixolydian scale, and jazz is the reason I learned it. Okay, so learn this stuff, learn some songs, learn some ideas, but you can literally pick and choose. Like, you get your scales together, get your rhythm together, get your phrasing together. So with that said, learn at your own pace, and this should be an enjoyable experience. It should not be something, if you're ever going into it with the idea that that is torturous, then stop. And that's not what this is meant for. So with that said, also be kind to yourself, because there's a lot of things jazz musicians can do is they can be cruel to themselves because they can't solo flawlessly and with ease. The idea of soloing over giant steps for 30 minutes. If you can't do that, if you can't be Joe Pass, that was me when I was 20 years old. Like, I wanted to be just like Joe Pass. That was my guy. He's the reason I started playing bass, because I was learning all these bass lines so I could go. So I had all these bass lines in my system because I was working on it, learning how to play like Joe Pass. It affected my playing and completely changed me. So, but with that said, it was all fun. I did it for the fun. It was, yeah, that's the only reason you should learn anything. Okay, it's not a competition. Okay, let's get out of thinking that we have to compete, we have to cut heads. No, let's learn some sounds. Let's learn some harmonic concepts. Let's learn some melody. Let's learn some chord substitution. Okay, let's learn to solo with something other than just a pentatonic scale, or for that matter, the natural minor scale, or for that matter, scales in general. Jazz musicians use lots of devices. Scales are one of them, but not the only one of them. Probably not even the most common. All right. So above anything else, when you're studying jazz, you need to enjoy the process. That's the same. That's the thing that to keep in mind. As I said, and it's not. Nobody's trying to replace. Like, you learn some stuff about Charlie Parker, and you master some of the things that he has talked about, or not even master. Forget about mastering. Just applying some of the concepts that he brought to the table. It'll change you as a player. Okay, people who like Pink Floyd, people who like all kinds of stuff. Like, I'm thinking of like Slash. These guys wrote extremely catchy guitar solos because a lot of their guitar solos were using the same tools that Charlie Parker used in the 40s and 50s. So with that said, we're going to check out. You can enjoy the process, enjoy the process, enjoy the process. It's infinite learning. And we're going to check out 7 different categories of why I think a rock guitar player should check out studying jazz, just for your own reasons. And it'll change your playing. It'll change your playing. It'll add dimension to it. But it doesn't mean we have to make jazz sounds when we use jazz concepts. That's the other thing. So with that said, the learning method jazz players do is one of the most important things, I think, because it's like every time I hear about a kid who's playing in jazz band and all they're doing is getting a chart, and all they're doing is reading a chart, and they never get a chance to learn anything about improvisation. It's not jazz. It's classical music. It's the classical discipline. So you cannot separate improvisation from jazz. Okay? Improvisation is what my favorite musicians have always done. Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Eddie Van Halen. Okay? All of them. Richie Blackmore. Tony Iommi. All of them. Even Jimmy Nolan, Tony Maiden. They found their parts through improvisation. So with that said, everything that we learn in jazz, we learn with the spirit of how can I repurpose this? We're not just out to learn one song. We're not just out to learn one song and memorize it and not understand the concepts within that. How can I repurpose a scale idea so I can play it in many different applications across your playing? So number 2, the core aesthetic that is jazz is improvisation. As I said, you cannot separate improvisation and jazz. If your jazz knowledge is never exposes itself to improvisation, the blues, how the blues and jazz difference than the blues and blues, chord to chord stuff, chordal lines, approach notes, enclosures, arpeggios, sequences, melodies you can hum, copying phrases, copying popular songs or pop, like it could be folk melodies, or they could be the Tetris theme or whatever. You put that into your all these things are part of the melodic part of jazz. So with that said, your music theory, we study music theory because we are doing more than just playing something that's on a written page. So how do we repurpose this? In studying jazz, you study theory in a deeper way. How do I repurpose? Super arpeggios, enclosures, arpeggios, the 12-bar blues form, the many different variations of the 12-bar blues form. How do I play over blues for Alice? How do I play a minor blues? So how does Kenny Burrell differ than Wes Montgomery, differ than Charlie Christian? Okay, so these are all things, these are all rabbit holes you can jump down, and then you learn it as it applies to those guys. And I think you'll find that you can apply it to a lot of other, it's not just a jazz thing. The best studio musicians came from a jazz background or an improvisational background. They just were, because they could adapt to anything. That's what jazz teaches you. Chord and harmony. Okay, so you have your guitar guitar teacher teaches you this is a B flat 7 chord. Maybe he shows you if you put your pinky down here, it sounds like kind of Booker T and the MGs, or maybe a little Motown, Cornell Dupree. But what a jazz musician would learn was he was like, okay, I can play that. I can play that. I can also play the shell of the chord. And I can approach that chord chromatically. Okay. I can substitute color tones. So the dominant 7th, the dominant 9th. So 7 equals 9 equals 13. There's your 13, there's your dominant 7th, there's your 9. All right. All right. Okay, so that's stuff that you don't learn in every style of music. There's some people that know the same 25 chords they knew all their lives, and they can't, they're not studying harmony in a deeper way. So this helps your funk playing, this helps your R&B playing, this helps your blues playing by learning more voicings and interjecting double stops. Putting double stops into your rhythm parts. Double stops, single note lines. I can put a single note line in there. Okay. Interject line, double stop, chord in a groove. That's limitless. All right, melody. We should be students of melody, all kinds of melody. What jazz teaches us is how melodies are constructed, and it's like how we can elaborate on melodies and all kinds of, like, okay, arpeggios, we could do scale, we can think in terms of scales, we can think of arpeggios, approach notes, chromaticism. Okay, as I said before, enclosures, melody, how to practice our improvisation by playing phrases as opposed to playing scales. Okay, to play something that is singable, to be able to create something that is singable right off the top of your head, and to be able to play it and know what it's going to sound like before it comes out in your fingers. Okay, so next, jazz rhythm. Okay, so now the cliche rhythm in jazz is the swing rhythm, like the Freddie Green. Now the study of rhythm, the way a jazz person, a swing person, a funk person, a blues person, a rock person, the differences between their styles are the rhythms that they play. Okay, jazz takes a deep dive. Now, here's where I'm going to differ. I'm going to go past just playing swing stuff or bossa nova, or even there's no limit to the kinds of styles you can apply this head, the way we're thinking of and conceiving the music. There's no limit to it. There's no limitations. I can play. My reggae will be better. I'll have more ideas in my reggae playing by studying jazz, in my funk playing by studying jazz. Favorite funk guitar players had a jazz background because they knew how to manipulate chords and double stops and all kinds of things. So study every kind of rhythm you can, the way a jazz person, a traditional jazz person, would just study swing and bossa nova maybe. Okay, so we're not stuck to one style of music. Lastly, the whole study of comping. What comping means is accompany. It's short for accompany. It is the improvisational background of chords and rhythms and melodies that supports the melodic instrument, whatever. It could be the singer. It could be the saxophone player. Okay, whatever. When we say comping, how do I comp from style to style? What are the different approaches? this doesn't stop at jazz. You can view a reggae comp or a funk comp or whatever. We can practice all those different kinds of styles and view it as comping. That I think came from the jazz guys of the past. So study of comping is just as deep a subject as soloing is when you're working on your soloing and improvising melody and soloing. Okay, so getting our chords together and being able to play the right stuff at the right time, the right melody, not too much. The idea of self-editing, jazz helps you with that. Okay, because most of the music that we're given is not absolutely written out note for note. They expect you to come up with the correct approach, like use your musical taste and use your self-editing skills in order to come up with your perfect part. So remember that Charlie Parker's innovations and Charlie Christian's and John Coltrane's and Miles Davis, they all have different innovations, but each one of their innovations, and they each had different approaches. Each one of their innovations and approaches can make you a better all-around musician just by bringing it into your thing. Okay? So with that said, a whole wellspring of musical ideas that are at your fingertips and jazz, and we're going to have more in Boomer Guitar Sessions. We're going to have more ideas that we're going to split this up into different learning things about how do I apply some of these principles to how do I comp and rock guitar. Okay, how do I solo keeping Charlie Christian in mind, or Charlie Parker, or Miles Davis? What would Miles do? We're going to make these bracelets that say, what will Miles do? I'm kidding. So with that said, all of them are different, vastly different approaches, vastly different sounds, but each of them is actually absolutely vital. And you can add your name to that lineage, and all different kinds of styles of music you can apply it to. So until next time, this is Rod, Boomer Guitar Sessions. I will see you later. Thank you. I appreciate you. Hi, this is Rod from Boomer Guitar Sessions. I personally wanted to thank you for being part of our community. If you like what we're doing here and you want to see more of it, please hit the like, subscribe, and share. And this helps me spread my musical messages to all over the world. Thank you. I appreciate you. And always remember, you can do this.